Welcome back to part 2 of the Macross retrospective. Yes, what I'm covering today is part 2, so that would make the first 3 videos I made on Macross, the original series, part 1, but part 1 is 3 parts. Confused? So am I. Anyway, first I need to address that I do know that an English dub of the original Macross series does exist, but I didn't use it because I didn't have it. Besides, I'm so used to the Japanese audio that trying to watch it again with English-speaking actors would feel weird for me. Anyway, let's move on. I don't really know why this is a thing in Japan, but whenever there is a popular anime TV series, the creators sometimes feel the need to do a condensed theatrical retelling. This may strike some out there as odd because one would think that if a story was done so well in the TV format, why condense it for a movie? TV shows are able to tell their stories in a more leisurely manner, and thus the audience is given more time to get to know the characters, connect with them, and the world in which everything is set. As someone who vastly prefers film over television, I have to admit that television, in the long run, does have this advantage over film. But I admire the ability of film to use images, sound, and superb storytelling within the confines of 1.5 to roughly 3 hours to deliver an experience that doesn't quite overstay its welcome, but still could be worth revisiting. For me, a lot of things would be better if there isn't too much of it. All too often with television, I find myself getting annoyed with many TV series by about the 3rd or 4th season due to the fact that I see no visible change in the characters, no clear direction for the story to reach a satisfying conclusion, times where the show just spins its wheels for the sake of padding out the lifespan, losing track of the original concepts, focus, and various other things. More to the point, I feel it takes considerable more skill to write and direct a motion picture that sets up a world, characters that are to any degree relatable, a story to follow, and ultimately use all those elements to immerse the viewer into an experience that they want to come back to. If a film can do that within the short runtime of 1.5 to 3 hours as opposed to entire seasons of a television series, it's ultimately more satisfying for me. Which brings me back to my original question, why make alternate theatrical retellings of Japanese anime shows? Well, the best I can surmise given my experience with them is that they do the retellings to use concepts and ideas that didn't make it into the original show for whatever reasons, and to get a chance to kind of do it again, but with a budget. Japan does this a lot with anime, and the results in quality with various movies retold from their respective shows are mixed. They can range from terrible, like 1996's X the Movie, a beautifully animated but shoddily written film whose tragic ending left me in stitches.
Why did it work? This isn't how I wanted it. What happened?
Yeah, I'm sorry, that's not tragic, that's funny. Anyway, continuing on. It can go to the decent, like 2000's Escaflowne the movie, or to the exceptional, like today's topic, Macross, Do You Remember Love? Do You Remember Love, as I stated in my previous videos, was my official introduction to the Macross franchise. And I may be in the minority by saying this, but I think this retelling is better than the original TV show. Don't worry, I'll explain why. On top of this being my intro to Macross, this is also one of my all-time favorite movies. Noboru Ishiguro returns to direct, and Shoji Kawamori also directs the film, which to my knowledge makes this his directorial debut. Haruhiko Mikimoto, Kentaro Haneda, Kazutaka Miyatake, and others from the show return, as well as all the voice actors. It was released on July 7th, 1984, and to this day it remains very well loved in Japan. How loved is it? Well, from what I have read, the build-up for it was very intense and had a huge marketing campaign. And if what I've read is correct, people have camped outside of theaters just to see it. It must be true since in the anime comedy documentary Otaku no Video, the movie is brought up, a poster is shown on somebody's wall, and it is implied that that's the movie they're waiting in line for. In a recent television program where voice actors from the series and even Shoji Kawamori made appearances, fans and I believe people who worked on the show voted and ranked their favorite parts of the franchise in terms of best series, mechs, songs, characters, etc. And Do You Remember Love was ranked number 2 behind Macross Frontier. I don't disagree with that at all, that's actually how I rank him too. And the song Do You Remember Love was ranked as the best Macross song. Heck, even Mari Ejima herself makes an appearance on the show to sing it. But I do take some issue with some of the things they voted for. For instance, how did Neki Basara take the number 2 spot ahead of such characters as Isamu Dyson or Roy Fokker, but Shiro Nome got number 1, so when? And like other parts of the franchise apart from the original series, Macross 2 or Macross Plus, due to the legal troubles surrounding the license, it will never see a legal release in the West. As with Part 3 of SDF Macross, I won't cover them in detail here, but I will once again post links in the description and leave the detailing of that mess in more capable hands. But there is something else I can share. Remember Carl Macek? Yeah, he was approached by Canon Films, yes, that Canon Films, the creator of these classics, as well as my favorite from them, Life Force. Seriously, check Life Force out, it's really cool. Anyway, he was approached by them to make Robotech the movie, and apparently Macek wanted the license Do You Remember Love to dub and localize it with the voice actors from Robotech, but he wasn't able to get it for what he called political reasons.
Frank Agrama, the owner of Harmony Gold, got a call from the people that owned Canon Films. It was either Yoram Globus or Menachem Golan. One of those two guys called them up and said, "Hey, we want to put out a movie of Robotech." So I could call into the office the next day. Is there a Robotech movie that we can do? And I said, yeah, there's a great one. It's called Do You Remember Love? That's the great animation, that would be like the great jewel of animation to put out in theaters. Well, they tried to get the rights to that, and they couldn't get it for whatever reason, I don't know. Whatever political reasons, they couldn't get it.
Thank heavens for that. In fact, before the whole legal mess, Do You Remember Love did get released in truncated versions such as Clash of the Bionoids, which had 30 minutes removed from it. Ouch. And yes, an English dub of this film does exist, and it sucks.
Swing yourself over.
Do something!
Make yourself come in my direction. Come on.
Now, I've heard two different stories surrounding the dub. One states that it was dubbed in Hong Kong in the 80s by some Australian expatriates and English-speaking natives, and the other story I heard is that it was dubbed as a way to help Japanese students learn English. I have no way of confirming either, but the former sounds more likely. I even heard it was handled by the same dub company that worked on Godfrey Ho's cut-and-paste ninja and action movies. I especially have no way of confirming that, but given how bad the dub turned out, I wouldn't be surprised. The one piece of info that is consistent was that the dub was commissioned by Toho. Oh, and don't worry, I'll post examples of the dub throughout this video. Anyway, on with the movie. The film begins in the year 2009. Humanity is caught in a three-way war against the Zentradi and the Meltrandi. The massive space warship that crashed on Earth, which was now called the Macross, was forced to flee Earth in a space full to Pluto after the Earth was bombarded by Zentradi forces. We open to Britai and Exodal, who by the way look very different from the way they were presented in the show. More on that later. Anyway, we see them examining objects such as cars and other things, and discussing them in the made-up Zentradi language. This is similar to when the Klingons spoke their own language in Star Trek The Motion Picture, when they didn't in the original show. We have the opening where we see the reveal of the Macross, and it's pretty glorious. This whole opening showing the interior of the ship with people walking about, people doing work on the bridge, and Valkyries taking off instantly had me hooked. I mentioned in the second video for the TV series that the animation fluctuated between passable and penny pinching. In this movie, however, everything is top-notch. If there is anyone out there looking for anime that is completely done in the top-notch, old-fashioned hand-painted cells, then this is one of the movies you go to. Every character, environment, machine, and even stuff down to the smallest items are rendered in painstakingly earnest detail. And they especially work to bring out Haruhiko Mikimoto's character designs and Shoji Kawamori's mechanical work better than the show could. The actual animations of the characters and various vehicles are much smoother and has almost none of the stilted jerking and occasional awkward gestures that come from lower budgeted productions. This movie is a feast for the eyes. This is what otakus talk about when they discuss old school anime. Oh, by the way, the film's focus is on the primary characters, which are Hikaru Ichijo, Lin Min-mei, and Misa Hayase, and once again, these three formed a love triangle. There are lots of other characters featured in the film, such as Roy Fokker, Maximilian Genus, Captain Global, Claudia LaSalle, and others, but they are pushed to the side in favor of the primary three. And despite how that may sound, that's actually not that bad of a thing. More on that later. Anyway, at this point in the story, it's been 5 months since the Macross had to leave Earth. At this time, Min-mei is performing a concert, where she performs classics like My Boyfriend is a Pilot and Xiao Pai Lan. But this is all interrupted by an announcement of transformation, and everyone hightails it to a shelter. We cut to space as Valkyrie squadrons engage an incoming wave of battle pods. Let's watch. Things seem to be going well, but Zentradi units infiltrate the Macross to gather more data, and maybe even samples for Britai and Exodal. Hikaru, noticing this, becomes insubordinate.
デルタ1よりスカル11へ。あなたの担当は敵戦艦の迎撃のはずよ。速やかに持ち場に向かいなさい。
冗談じゃない。助けてやったのにそんな言い方ないだろ。敵機が侵入してるんだ。黙ってられるか。
第2防衛隊に任せなさい。これは命令です。
ならさっさと受けるか。艦内に入って敵を撃破する。以上。
ちょっと待ってよ。
Delta to Skull 11. Intercept that ship. You must do this immediately.
Who's talking? I saved you before, remember? But who's gonna deal with the enemy?
Leave them to the Defense Force Network. They'll handle them.
I'll deal with them. I'm not listening to a woman. Go!
Wait!
And speaking of the intruders from earlier, they break into the interior, crashing a shelter, causing Kaifun and Minmay to run. And the intruders are shocked at what they find.
Zentron to Meltron. Zentron to Meltron. Zentron to Meltron. Talking Yak the culture.
Kaifun and Minmay get separated due to the transformation. Oh no! Minmay is in danger! Oh, thank goodness. Hikaru's here to save the day. Oh, wait, crap, the gravity goes kaput. But that's okay, because it leads to a cool sequence where he catches her. Awesome, he did it! Oh, brother. The Macross fires the main gun, destroys the enemy ship, the enemy retreats, and all is well. For now, anyway. Hikaru is lost in an isolated part of the ship with Minmay. She thanks him for saving her life, and he acts like a schlub.
僕は地球統合軍バルキリースカル小隊所属一応光る少尉です。
ありがとう、少尉さん。
いいんです。大ファンですから。
嬉しい。
エンジンブロックに落っこっちゃったんですよ。
どこかに出口は？
ちょっと見てみます。
The gravity goes out again where they are, and they have some fun with that.
いいぞ。その調子。
面白い。
あ、ミンメイさん、そっちへ行くと。ちょっと。あ。
見て見て。どう？この服、最新式のライトホログラフィーよ。
This leads to a montage of them doing things to get comfortable with Zero G Love playing in the background. Oh hey, fan service. Wait, how is she taking a shower in zero gravity? Yeah, I don't know either. Meanwhile, back with the Zentradi, Britai and Exodal review the footage from the scouts.
Zentron te Mertlan Macross. Sa, de teres taran Zentran te Mertlan ukest. Men martes eskest. Mit Zentran protkatla martes. De kerkas maglan, maka kerkasran de zans.
Back to the humans. Hikaru's been missing for 3 days at this point. Roy orders Max and Kakizaki to keep searching, while Misa says, good riddance. We get back to Hikaru and Minmay.
それでね、父さんも母さんもこう言うのよ。兄さんがどれだけ苦労したか分かってるか？言うこと聞かないなら、親子の縁を切ってやる。だからこう言ってやったの。長い間お世話になりました。私は必ず歌手になります。
My parents were definitely against my singing career. My brother was paying for my college fees. But I wished to leave. They threatened to disown me. So I thanked them very much and said goodbye to them. I decided my singing career came first.
無事だといいけど。
マクロスに乗ってないの？
地球よ。
あんな大爆撃を受けたんだから、ただでは済まないと思うけどね。あ、そんなに心配することないよ。どうせあと1ヶ月もすれば地球に戻れるんだし。
She then proceeds to tease him big time after he asks questions about her love life.
あの相手役の人との噂。
あなたも本気にしてるの？あんなの雑誌社のでっち上げよ。あんなの演技でできんのよ。ビジネスよ。
嘘。
やってみせましょうか。
やるって？
私ね、本当はあなたのことずっと好きだったの。愛してるって言って。
でも。
そう。私は愛してないのね。
違うよ。好きだよ。
When they share the kiss, the gravity comes back. Slowly, thank heavens. And the news is already there. That was quick. They make front page news. Misa, however, is forced into pardoning his early insubordination because a UN spacey pilot rescuing a famous singer during an attack equals good publicity, I guess. News of Hikaru's adventures makes the rounds to his comrades, Shammy, Vanessa, and Kim, the 3 bridge officers, and even the local news. We cut to Hikaru, Misa, Claudia, and Roy at a restaurant, and Roy offers some advice in a drunken fashion.
なんだ早瀬その面。だが職務を離れたら少しは女らしくしろ。
簡単に性格は直せません。
参ったな。おい光。
はい。
男ってのはな、時には強引さが必要なんだ。女の気持ちを考えてグダグダするな。本当に好きならば力ずくでもものにしちまうぐらいの積極性が大事なんだ。
Relax, we're off duty. You can be a girl for a change.
I was born the way I am.
Me, sir. Now, you listen to me.
But?
A man does come on strong. Sometimes that's his nature. But a girl has to fall in love. So don't resist it. Just let the man overpower you for once.
Hikaru gets called away under the guise of a family emergency, and he meets up with Min-Mei, and together they spend the day, night, whatever, together running around the city and having all kinds of fun. He eventually takes her for a spin in a training Valkyrie around Saturn. He is so fired, but at least they seem to be having fun. But Misa and Kaifun, Kaifun, I almost forgot about him. He's nowhere near as big of a jerk in this movie as he was in the show. Probably because he's hardly in the film. Anyway, Misa and Kaifun catch up to them and tell them to return.
バルキリーを使用で使うなんて。ヒカルが悪いんじゃないわ。私が無理やり頼んだんです。
ミンメイ、早く戻るんだ。
兄さん。
一条君、今度のことがマスコミに発覚したら、ミンメイの歌手生命は終わりだ。軍の偉方には手を打ったが、君に対しては容赦しないからな。
分かってます。厳罰は覚悟の上です。
But this is interrupted by Zentradi forces who were sent by Bedolza and Britai to capture my clone samples. Even with an inebriated Roy magically doing a good job fending them off, you figure that one out, everyone is captured. Even him. They are all brought before Britai and Exetel for interrogation, and it plays out in a very similar fashion to how it did in the show.
なぜ男と女のマイクロンが一緒にいられるのだ。
男と女のマイクロン。
なんだ？
何が聞きたいのかしら。
デブランはなぜ戦わん？なぜマイクロンになった？
私たちはあなた方のような巨人と違って生まれた時からずっとマイクロンです。なったわけではありません。
生まれた時から？
男と女が協力して作ることには違いないがな。
男と女が協力？役でカルチャー。
なぜ戦わん？戦う？冗談じゃない。女は喧嘩するよりも抱く方がいいに決まってるだろうが。お前たちは男と女でそのようなデカルチャーをしておる。ああ、キスだってなんだってしてる。キスというものをしてみろ。それは
Britai forces him to demonstrate a kiss, and Kaifun and Minmay do so. And, as in the show, it blows their minds. Oh, I almost forgot. The look of the Zentradi definitely look more alien than in the TV show. I suppose this was to give them more, well, a more alien appearance. Which I kinda like, given that in the TV show they look like something from an older sci-fi television show. Well, somewhat anyway, not in the ship designs. I like how everything is more stylized, it's more interesting to look at. The regular soldiers look, well, normal, but when it comes to Britai and Budolza, they look like they were specifically made for their purposes. Well, their respective purposes anyway. Britai looks like he was built to be a strong leader guy who, like in the TV series, can probably survive a few minutes in the vacuum of space. Exodal has a huge brain because he's an archivist and needs to store a lot of information. And of course we get back to Budolza, who looks like he was built into the main HQ, or whatever it is, so that way he can observe and command all. Even the Meltrandi look different, somewhat. Laplametz is done up in a similar way as Budolza, and while the others look about the same as in the TV show, only with different uniforms from what I see, their HQ and interiors of their ships looks nice and clean, slick and clutter-free, and the ladies look good. Add your own commentary here. But the point is the designs are different and it's an aesthetic that will be carried on in the other installments. While being escorted to what I believe will be holding cells, Meltrandi forces attack and chaos ensues. I'm assuming they were sent in there to capture the samples that the Zentradi have. And yes, that is Milia right there, and showing once again she really is the best. She'll come up again later. After some action, Hikaru and Misa discover the nature of the conflict. While trying to escape, Roy gets killed. Well, he sacrifices himself, much to Hikaru and Misa's sadness. And Hikaru and Misa get blown out of the Zentradi ship while it's folding. As a result of the fold, Hikaru and Misa, after some bickering, discovered that they were sent to Earth.
The Prometheus, the spacecraft carrier, belonging to the Pacific Fleet.
Can't be.
It is. We are on the planet Earth.
And we see that Minmay and Kaifun were sent to Budolza's HQ. You know, I could go on a tangent about how astronomically improbable it is for Hikaru and Misa to land on Earth seemingly at random during a fold, since we don't know if Britai and Exodal folded anywhere near Earth, but I'm not going to. I do like this montage, though, that shows Misa and Hikaru fruitlessly searching for survivors or even edible food while Minmay sings a song. Zentradi catch the singing, and Budolza explains the song and by extension protoculture as best he can.
가르침 대잔창스.
Hikaru and Misa are stranded and are not sure where to go. They have some time to talk about their dire situation. I love the background music here. Very melancholy.
生き延びるんだって軍人の任務だろ。
もういいのよ。何も分かってないのね。マクロスが来たってどうにもならないわ。
どうして？
もう地球には誰も残っていないのよ。
だけどマクロスの人がいれば。
地球は全滅したのよ。相手は100億の人間をあっという間に滅ぼせる敵なのよ。
We have to survive. It's our duty.
Forget it. You don't understand any of this. Even the Macross can't save us now.
Why not?
There are no other human beings left alive.
Maybe not. They're on the Macross.
But the Earth is being destroyed. And they destroyed the Earth so easily.
We also learned from their conversations here that Hikaru actually doesn't have a family despite the emergency on board the Macross where he went to meet Min-Mei, and throughout the rest of the time in the tent, they just sit in silence. Some time has passed and they still continue to search. They come across something interesting just above the water. They come across a terminal inside that is still working, and while using it to contact the Macross, the city's main computer activates and begins to communicate with them. After some talk, some rumbling happens. The ruins are raised from the water and it's an old protoculture city. They talk to each other about what happened to protoculture and the city. Maybe it's the best they can to surmise anyway, to tell us, the audience, about the whole thing. I don't think I can show the whole conversation, so here's a good summary. There was an intergalactic civilization called protoculture that existed long ago that was advanced in genetic engineering. Eventually, the men and women of protoculture were able to reproduce on their own. But the giants' violence became too intense, and when protoculture realized their mistake, they took refuge on Earth and attempted to start over. They manipulated the genes of the local inhabitants to create our ancestors.
それじゃあこの町の連中はどこへ？
2万年前に巨人たちの戦闘がこの太陽系にまで及んだ時、町を海の中に隠して一時的に地球を離れたらしいわ。
But they never returned. The city's computer mistook the Zentradi arrival 6 months prior as the protoculture returning and raised the city.
だけど2万年も待ち続けてやってきたのが俺たちだけなんてね。
本当ね。
Okay, now this whole thing is something I really like. In the original series, we hear a lot about protoculture through conversations, but we never really get to see any of it apart from what the Zentradi have from them. In this movie, we see a city, and we see other things such as chairs, cars, technology, kitchens, utensils, and as we will see later, forms of entertainment, in this case, songs and music. Although their nature is still shrouded in mystery in this and other Macross installments, a wise move as far as I'm concerned, as trying to reveal things that are best left mysterious usually end in disaster. It's nice to be given a view into their civilization, even if it's a small one. They search around in the city, because what else are they gonna do? And Misa comes across a plate with words written on it.
覚える。覚えていますか？巨人たちの文字よりだいぶ複雑でよくわからないわ。
This will come into play later. Misa tries to put on some display of normalcy by pretending to have dinner ready when Hikaru comes back. He decides to play along. They play along for a while, but...
帰りたい。みんなのところ。一条くん。
Boy, oh boy, he better not screw this up. The Macross did end up picking up their transmission, and it picks them up. They come back to the ship with nostalgia hitting them right in the face.
不思議ね。ミンメイさんはどこかに行ってしまったのに、今でも歌は流れている。
歌か？
まるで生きてるみたいね。
ああ。なんだか懐かしいな。あれから1ヶ月しか経ってないはずなのに、民名と一緒に飛び出した時のこと、ずっと昔のような気がしてね。
They don't have a lot of time to rest, however, as Zentradi forces, with Milia in command, arrive to seize control of the protoculture ruin. We get good action here, with Max and Milia having a duel. Let's watch. The Macross cannon is blown off, and it looks like the Zentradi have the upper hand, but the Zentradi arrive to chase them away with Min-Mei humming a song.
何なのこれどこの歌どうしてミンメイさんがメルトラン・マトラスカス・デアルクラット・メナザーンラークマーカリーマローム・デアンレカン
成功です。メルトラン退却いたしました。
艦長ゼントラーディ軍が和平交渉を申し入れています。
和平交渉
The Zentradi are doing the peace talks with the humans simply as a way to get them to make the lyrics to the tune that Min-Mei was humming so they can get the Zentradi to surrender. We see Global explaining protoculture and related things to the Macross inhabitants, as well as introducing some Zentradi people to the ship. Oh look, it's the three amigos making a cameo! Britai finds this amusing.
見えるかあの3人が
地球人を停戦させるために送り込んだマイクロンが何か
ブリタイはゼントランがあんなにカルチャーなところを見たことがない。私もマイクロになってみたい。
やってカルチャー
冗談だ。
冗談
知らぬか。
はい
プロトカルチャーの民名が教えてくれた。
Min-Mei makes an appearance to explain how the song will be written and the work going into it. Then Misa and Hikaru are given a hero's welcome, finally, and things get awkward.
光る
Oh boy. Songwriters try their best to come up with good lyrics, but have no luck. Misa sees that the place she collected in the protoculture ruins may be the lyrics, and goes to work on them. Min-Mei comes by to visit Hikaru at his quarters and to tell him how she feels. But...
好きよあの人との間に何があったか知らないわでもねそれでもね私はあなたが好き
Misa comes in and misunderstandings ensue.
これを解読してたらあの曲の歌詞みたいだって分かったからあなたに最初に確かめてもらおうと思ったの
ちょっと待って違うんだよそれは君の誤解違う
だなんて誤解だなんてあんまりだわあんまりよ
ミンメイ
But believe it or not, Hikaru handles this situation very well. Take a look.
誰もいない地球を2人でさまよい歩いてなんとか無事にマクロスに戻れて街の中で民名の歌を聴いたときスクリーンの中の彼女を見たとき分かったんだいつまでもそばにいてほしいのは君だってこと今でもそのつもりだ
本気なの
いつ死んじまうかもわからないけどこんな僕でよければ
We have wandered the earth together, and we returned to the Macross and we heard Ming-Mei's song. But when I saw her on the screen, then I knew, deep down inside, I knew that deep in my heart that the person I need is... I just need you. And I haven't changed my mind.
You really mean it?
I could die in combat shortly. But then if you'd accept me,
Wow, I like this Hikaru more than the one in the TV show. Their embrace is cut short due to an alarm to Sortie. The Zentradi see that the song isn't ready, oh but it is, as we saw Misa finished it, and Hikaru is now racing to give it to Min-Mei. The Meltrandi arrive in full force, and yeah, so much for peace. A large-scale space battle commences as Hikaru continues the race to find Min-Mei. He finds her and delivers the song.
君にこの歌を歌ってもらいたい。
何よそれ。なんで私があの人の見つけた歌を歌わなきゃいけないの？
The situation intensifies as Bulldoza wipes out Lap Lamets, as well as a ton of his own ships in the process. And Min-Mei throws a pity party.
そんなもの歌ったって勝てる見込みなんかないじゃない。それより一緒にいて光る。どうせ死ぬならこのまま一緒にいたい。
僕らだけの問題じゃない。マクロスに乗っているみんなのために。
そんなの関係ないじゃない。どうして世の中にいるのが私たち二人きりじゃないの？あなたと私以外みんな死んじゃえばいいのに。
Wow, talk about literally slapping some sense into her. Okay, he says some kind words to her as well. And it works.
私歌うわ。思いっきり。
Now we come to the absolutely awesome climax of the film where Min-Mei sings Do You Remember Love. The music for the film as a whole is just as good, if not slightly better than the show. Kentaro Haneda clearly had more to work with here than when he worked on the TV show. While the movie does recycle some tracks he wrote for the TV series, the score for this movie is, I personally feel, better able to bring out the sense of adventure, unapologetic melodrama, and willingness of the human spirit to continue in the face of annihilation. As I stated before, the songs recycled from the show are My Boyfriend is a Pilot and Xiao Pai Lan, as well as a few others, but the standout here is of course Do You Remember Love. I mentioned earlier that this was voted the best song in the franchise, and I'm not going to argue with that. I love it too. The song is so popular in the franchise that it's been reused in other installments to varying degrees. Here, it is used in the film's final battle to help unite the Zentradi and Meltrandi against Bulldoza, and to help both races grab onto culture that has been deprived of them for so long. Now, one might initially think that the juxtaposition of a pop song with an elaborate space battle would create tonal whiplash, but it really works here to deliver an entertaining conclusion. Have you ever seen anything like this in other anime, or any forms of entertainment, movies, TV? No, I don't think you have. It's awesome.
俺が吟味める
Okay, that's enough. Hikaru makes his way to Bulldoza, and no, your eyes did not deceive you, that really was a Budweiser can being fired, or a missile painted to be a Budweiser can. He arrives and delivers the final blow.
カル1よりデルタ1へ。
任務完了。これより帰還します。
こちらデルタ1、了解。
Everyone is victorious, and now everyone can take an opportunity to relax. Or sleep, in Shammy's case. Without saying any words to each other, Misa and Minmay leave on good terms, and Claudia has a question.
結局何だったのかしら、あの歌。ただの流行歌よ。流行歌？何万年も昔に異星人たちの街で流行った当たり前のラブソング。
Minmay begins to count, and this leads to the end credits where the song Angel's Paint plays. Now, the footage for the end credits right here comes from Macross Flashback 2012, released in 1987. It shows Minmay performing a concert on Earth with the newly repaired Macross overlooking all. This wasn't in the original theatrical release of the film, obviously, and the portion you are seeing was added later when it was restored. Now, I hadn't planned on covering Flashback 2012 here, but what the heck, it's short enough. Apart from the animation featured in the Do You Remember Love releases, Flashback 2012 is more or less a compilation of songs and images from the show and movie. So if you're looking to watch a montage of the franchise's best moments, or its best moments at the time of its release, then this was your go-to place, and you can listen to great music in the process. But Flashback 2012 does end with the second Macross-like vessel, the Mega Road, that was hinted at the end of the TV series, taking off with Misa in command and Hikaru, I believe being a higher squadron commander, I think, going with her. Anyway, this was something fans of the show really wanted to see, and I'm glad it's here, and presented in absolutely beautiful animation. So now I address the question, why do I think this movie is better than the TV show? The TV show had more characters to get attached to and more time to flesh them out more time to tell its story, and allows one more time to get immersed in the world. Those are good points, and if one were to make a case for the show being better than the movie, I would have a hard time arguing it, at least initially. But the show, as good as it is, it didn't really immerse me as much as the film. I know I didn't address the following in my 3-part video for SDF Macross, but I decided to wait to address these things until I talk about the movie to put it in proper context. The original series, again, while very good, had some pacing problems, especially when it comes to the last 9 episodes. While I still like what the last 9 episodes was trying to do, and there are lots of good things in there, I stand by everything I said in part 3, by the way, the story does meander here and there between the Zentradi riots, fears of not being able to find peace, and the absolutely frustrating love triangle, and its plot progression was, well, for lack of a better word, unusual. I still feel that the epic climax was done too soon, and the ending of the show, while I was happy with what Hikaru chose, left me a bit cold. I would have loved an extended ending that shows other characters interacting and wondering what to do next, and to show them having hope for the future. I know a lot of the issues of the show happen due to lack of funds, resources, and initially time, but the problems are still there. I know I said earlier that in Do You Remember Love, tons of characters that had development in the show are pushed to the wayside, and that kind of rubs some fans the wrong way. Personally, I didn't have a problem with that. For a movie version, making the love triangle and the Zentradi-Meltradi conflict the primary focus was the right move. Plus, in the TV series, the love triangle focus and the Zentradi issues kind of pushed other characters more and more out of the way as it progressed. The movie was uncluttered and focused for its 115-minute runtime. And while it is true that the movie does work best in the context of the TV series, I was able to, well, fall in love with the franchise just seeing the movie once. And get this, the first time I saw this movie, I watched it with the awful English dub, and I was still able to fall in love with it.
Who are you?
We are space immigrants.
The leader of space immigrants?
If a movie can enrapture you completely with a good story, even with a subpar dub, it must have done something right. I feel that this movie, in a way, stands on its own from the TV show. It was able to convey the epic feel of space combat and human resilience against overwhelming odds better. Hikaru's journey from a boy to a man was so much more satisfying here, as opposed to the show where he just stupidly flip-flopped back and forth. The design of the Zentradi and Meltrandi were more inspired, the melodrama is more heartfelt and has a more satisfying payoff, and the climax is among the best I've experienced in any film, animation or otherwise. And unlike the TV show, I walked away from Do You Remember Love with a great movie high, if that makes sense. You know what those are, right? The kind where you walk away from a movie wanting to watch it again immediately after that. Well, the movie didn't leave me cold, let's just leave it at that. Do You Remember Love is certainly not a perfect film. There are plenty of things that I can and have nitpicked, and there may be other things that make it narratively and character-wise fall short of the show. But I think this film is one of the best examples of a work that encapsulates an era, and that era is 80s anime. As I stated before, I'm not somebody that lets nostalgia dictate what is considered good or worthwhile, but in the case of Do You Remember Love, it kinda deserves the nostalgic love. This is the kind of work that can only be made in the 80s. It's a product of its time and yet in its own way feels timeless. I don't know if it was luck or not, but the filmmakers skillfully managed to capture the atmosphere, adventure, and drama of the TV show and put it in a self-contained theatrical experience that I'm willing to revisit again and again, and I hope you will too. This isn't just a simple retelling of the TV show, it's a different experience. Well, in all the good ways. It manages to take the old things from the show that people loved and manages to make it fresh. On pretty much all fronts, this is the best way to experience the original Macross. Although I still recommend the show a lot, it's great as well. But this film, I cannot recommend enough. Pick this movie up in any way you can.